So we're going to change the tire on a Vstar 1100. I have it propped up just using the car jack and some blocks underneath. Pretty straightforward, you just have to make sure it's balanced. The front two blocks are just under the frame. Took the seat off, pretty simple. My seat only had the one bolt back here. I also just released the back fender by taking off the two saddlebag holders, and then there was two screws right here as well. So now I can get the back tire off by lifting up the back fender. Otherwise you can see that there is no way that that back tire is rolling out of there on its own. So now I just have to disconnect the back tire. So I just took off the brake, the caliper. Basically there's two bolts right here that was holding it on. They were a 12 millimeter, I believe. Anyway, so I just took those two bolts out and just kind of slid this out. If you look at it, you can see that my brake pads also need to be replaced. There is almost no pad at all on that. So I will be doing that in the near future as well. But now that I have that out, I just need to take these two bolts out here and then loosen up the back axle. So the reason you take off the back, the caliper, is because when you take the tire, when you're sliding it out, it won't slide out all the way if the caliper is still attached to the rotor right here. So you pull it out and then make sure you tie it up as well out of the way, because when you pull the back tire out, it needs to be supported so it doesn't automatically like fall and yank on the brake lines, because that's delving into a whole nother situation you don't want to work with. Alright, so I got a little bit ahead of myself. Let me explain what happened. So, to take the back tire off, there's a few bolts you got to release. So this is where the final drive went through. The axle went through here. There was 4 bolts around this mounting plate that I took off, and then 2 bolts here, obviously. So those are those 2 bolts, and these are the 4 bolts around that mounting plate. The axle was pretty simple. I believe it was a 22 millimeter. Just got the nut and the washer that came off with it. Pretty straightforward. And then on the other side, it just had the caliper. Obviously I got off. It had this bolt right here, and then these two that hold the axle in place on this side. And so you can kind of see it has this arm that was connected to the bolt at the top, and then the caliper goes on those two. So those are the parts that I've taken off so far. So the final drive just kind of pops right off the top of that. You don't need to loosen up any bolts or anything. And that's the part you got to take to the guy to get the tire changed off. So I just have it propped up on 2 blocks right now, so I'm not damaging the rotor on the other side. Just take off all the loose pieces, take it into him, he'll switch the tire out, put it all back together, and throw it back on the bike. When you do put it all back together again, make sure those tines right there are greased up, and then also at the end of this other shaft, just put a little bit of grease on it before you stick it back in. So to help me out tomorrow, I made sure to put all the parts in the same order that they were on the bike. So I got that arm right there, the end of the axle, I got the different bearings inside, and then I got the final drive just all kind of lined up exactly where they were on the bike. So it'll make things easier. And then with this I also put like all the nuts and bolts and things that I took off back in their same spots, so I don't have to worry about losing them or figuring out where they go tomorrow when I get the wheel done.